Okay. All right, so let me pull up my Excel spreadsheet and then I'm going to share my screen. Oh, there we go. I'm not able to see you guys anymore because I'm sharing, but hopefully, hopefully you guys can see the Excel spreadsheet. Is that the case? Let's see, can someone, oh, let me get a minute.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was gonna ask if somebody could unmute and just verbally say, yeah, for some reason, I'm not able to see. Let me see, no, okay. All right, and if you guys have questions along the way, don't hesitate to unmute and then ask me the question. I'll try periodically to look at the chat, but it's harder for me to look at the chat while I'm still trying to look at the other screen. By the way, I have two monitors, and so my primary monitor that you guys are seeing me, I'm going to be turning to my right because that's where my second monitor is and where the Excel spreadsheet is being displayed. All right. So I ended up adding some hypothetical data here. Essentially, if we are, as I had mentioned in class, if we are going to be measuring two different types of behavior, the behavior that that you're collecting data on that's problematic, or challenging behavior, the that information is going to go in this first column. Okay, under baseline, that's actually the data that you will be observing and collecting data on. The remainder of the information is hypothetical, and so you'll have to add hypothetical data in order for your graph to fully look like the one I'm going to show you here in a second. And so I always like to label everything so it's clear what data points I'm trying to graph. And so again, here on the first, on the B column, I like to include, okay, the problem behavior first, and then the replacement behavior. And so if you guys are working on a specific challenging behavior that you know what the function is, which I hope that you guys try to find the function as that's part of the BIP. So once you find out what the function is, you want to see, okay, what behavior can I teach that would essentially be an equivalent to that function, but that's more socially appropriate. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of the replacement behavior. So that's what you're teaching. And so what you're trying to do is essentially decrease the problem behavior and increase the replacement behavior, okay? And so if this is a baseline, and I like to label it as baseline and intervention. For the problem behavior, baseline is going to be, just hypothetically, let's pretend that it's 7, 6, 8, 7, 6. Okay, these are the first 5 sessions. So session 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then for the replacement behavior, assuming that you already know what you're trying to teach and all of that stuff. And if you're collecting data on that, then more than likely the person will probably not be exhibiting the correct replacement behavior. They may occasionally, but for the most part, it may not be present. And so you can just put zeros all the way through. I just put a 1 here, for, just intermixed with all the other zeros just for variability. And then for the intervention, definitely all this will be hypothetical. But if you were implementing the intervention, then on the 6th session or the 6th day that you're there with the individual, you would start intervention on that day. So then that would become your first intervention session. And I ended up adding 5 intervention sessions. You would hope that for the problem behavior, if it's between 6 to 8, that range, that if the intervention is going to be effective, that the problem behavior is going to reduce to hopefully 0 levels, but I'm kind of making it a little bit more realistic, given that at this point, you've only done 5 interventions sessions, again, hypothetically. And so I ended up just typing in 3, 2, 0, 1, and 2 as your hypothetical data. For the replacement behavior, if it's almost non-existent during baseline, then you would hope that with your intervention, the behavior will increase. So again, you're kind of keeping track of 2 types of different behavior. And again, I like to say, problem behavior and replacement behavior just generically, but again, you will probably have something more specific. You can put like self, injurious behavior. And here you can, type in whatever the replacement behavior may be. Okay. And in the end, it doesn't matter how you label it, as long as it's capturing the essence of what, of that data point or the data points. All right. So now that I've kind of talked about how to set up this to create a line graph, what you would do is you would only highlight the B and C columns along with obviously the data points. You wouldn't highlight the baseline and intervention because we're going to be adding those labels separately. But I'm going to show you how it would look like if we did highlight everything. Okay. So once you highlight everything, you would go to insert. Okay. And then notice over here, you have these different icons of different bar graphs, line graphs, and so forth. You would select the one right here that has like the little data points with a line. This is the line graph. You click on the drop down menu, and instead of selecting one of these, because I don't like these because they don't have the actual data points added to them, you would select the first one that has the line with markers. Okay, so the line with the data point markers. So I'm going to click on that. Notice that it has the self-injurious behavior and the replacement behavior already in the legend, and it's already, marked, different color for each type. But if you notice down here, it has baseline and intervention. Typically in a standard line graph, you would put these labels not down here, but you would put them up on the top. This is the reason why I don't like to include the baseline and intervention labels here. Instead, I'm going to delete this. Instead, I like to just grab the B and C columns along with the data points, go back to the insert, to this line graph, the first one with the data points, and then it's cleaner. It doesn't have the baseline and intervention data points. Here in a little bit, I'll show you how to add those here on top. Okay. And so right now we have this, this line graph. However, it doesn't really contain all of the information, and it's not very, it seems a little bit messy, right? A little bit unclear of what to make out of all this. And the other thing that's missing here is that because there are no labels right now, you don't know which data was collected during baseline and where the intervention started, because right now it's showing as one continuous line graph. And so in order to do that, if you guys recall, in examples that I've shown you and in the book, there's always a line that separates the baseline phase from the intervention phase. And it doesn't have it here, so we have to go in and draw that. Okay, so but before we draw that phase change line, we need to essentially separate the baseline data points from the intervention data points. And to do that, what you would do is, if I click, I know that I have 5 baseline data points. Okay, so for both the self-injurious behavior and the replacement behavior, I'm going to do the same thing to all of them. So I guess we'll start with the problem behavior. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After the 5th data point, you go over here to the 6th one, you click on it, it highlights all of them, but click it again. That way you're only isolating the 6th data point. Okay, and once you isolate that, if the data point chart doesn't come up here, you can just right click, go to format data point, and then it'll bring it up. Okay, but I had already brought it up earlier. So you click on this little pill. Okay, and once you click on this pill, it's going to bring up all of these different things. What I want to do is where it has the line, I'm going to put no line. That way it separates, it removes the line that's connecting the 5th data point from the 6th data point. Okay, so I'm going to click on that one and notice how now it has separated these two, which is what I want. I'm going to do the same thing here on the 6th data point for the replacement behavior. I'm going to click on it again to isolate it. Go back to the pill, click no line, and now we have separated the baseline phase from the intervention phase. Okay, and now you can go in and draw a line if you want. Sometimes what I like to do is hold off even a little bit longer to draw that phase change line until I add a label for this axis and for this bottom axis. And the reason being is that once I insert a label for this one and this one, it moves the data points and then it's going to end up moving my line. And so in order to add labels, because again, we want to make sure that the graph is a standalone piece. Okay. And so I'm going to click on the, on this graph. And as soon as I click on it, notice that the chart design and format comes up. If I didn't click on it and it's clicked outside, it doesn't even show up. So in order for those tools to show up, you have to be clicking on the chart or inside the chart itself. So this is where I would click the chart design. Okay, and then here I can add chart element. So click on that. And then here on the titles, axis titles, you can do a primary horizontal label, which as you can see, it shows up at the very bottom. And then you can do a vertical one for the, for the numbers on the other axis. So we'll start with the vertical line here. Let me see. Again, you always want to label these. So let's pretend that we're talking about the number, right? In terms of like the frequency or event recording, that's what we do to collect the number of self-injurious behaviors and the replacement behavior. So you could say number of behaviors. Now, I wouldn't, let me, okay. So I wouldn't say like number of self-injurious behaviors here because I'm also labeling the replacement behaviors. So this label needs to account for both types of behaviors. So I'm being a little bit more generic here and just saying number of behaviors. If you were collecting data like duration recording for, let's say, I don't know, some sort of like crying behavior or a tantrum or something along those lines where you do duration recording, then you would say like, number of minutes, number of seconds, however, whatever the increment is. That way these numbers represent minutes or seconds versus actual number of behaviors. Okay. All right. Let me make it a tiny bit bigger because I'm not sure how well it's showing up. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Okay, so now we've labeled, this axis. Now we want to label the bottom axis. And so again, I'm clicking inside the chart. That way I can get to these tools. Going back to add chart element and then to the titles again. And then we would do primary horizontal. That way it brings up this other one. And see, every time I'm adding stuff, things are being moved around to accommodate all of these things. So that's why I like to wait a little bit on drawing the line until all of this is set up. Okay, so here you would say, label it as either days, if these are separate days, or if you want to do sessions, you could do either just type in sessions, or if you want to be even more specific, you can say maybe 30-minute, 30-minute sessions, or maybe if this is a 45-minute session, you can put 45-minute sessions. Some people like to put here make it like that. However you want to do it is fine. It's again, if you just want to put sessions, you want to put days, you want to put trials, whatever best represents the data and what happened. Okay, so we're just going to pretend that each session was a 45-minute period, and so we've listed it at 45 minutes. So now, just comparing the original version versus this one that we're adding more information, this one's a lot more of a graph that's a standalone graph. The other thing that we will want to put is here, the title of, whose data is this representing. You can put student behavior, you can put student data, again, I'm being generic. I could put, I don't know, Susan's behavior, or Susan's data, however you want to label it. But this provides you with, again, more information on who does this data belong to, okay? If you're doing this for multiple students, obviously it's, you want to label each one. That way you know that this belongs to Susan, this other one belongs to Jamie, this belongs to Paul, and so forth, okay? All right. The other thing that I like to do is actually, let's go ahead and draw the phase change line. So the line that goes between both the A and B phases, okay? And so in order to do that, you actually have to, draw it. I'll show you a technique that helps in drawing that. If you go to insert, you go to shapes, and we're going to be drawing a line, okay? So we would click on the line, and notice if I just click anywhere, I can, draw a line. If I'm not very good at drawing straight lines, or like perfectly vertical lines, I may accidentally do something kind of, kind of crooked. And so here's one tip to help you draw a straight line, okay? I'm going to delete that. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the inserting lines. Before I click on that, I'm going to hold down the, I can't ever remember if it's the shift or control. So I'm going to start with the control key. I'm going to hold down the control, and then I'm going to click down. No, it's not the control, it's a shift. Okay, let's do this again. Okay, it's a shift. Hold down the shift key. Okay. And then now you can draw, and notice even if I'm kind of going a little bit sideways, it's forcing it to draw a completely straight line. If I go too far on one side, then obviously it's going to draw a diagonal line. But if I'm just kind of going a little bit side by side, it's still drawing a completely vertical line. And so that helps you in making sure that it's a straight line versus one that you're accidentally drawing it crooked. So once you've drawn that, you can move it to wherever you want to place it. I'm going to place it right here, and then now if I want to make it a little bit shorter, I can hold down the shift key again and then move it up. That way it still maintains a straight line. And there you go. It has the line. The other thing is inserting the baseline and intervention labels. Okay. And in order to do that, there's different ways of doing it, but the one that I usually like to use is you would go to insert and you're going to end up drawing a text box. Okay. So under insert, again, go to text box, and then it has like this little icon or crosshair, and you can draw a box. Okay. Here I would do, type in baseline, something along those lines. Now there's a couple different tricks. Okay. I'm going to click on this and make sure it's centered. That way it's easier, it looks nicer. But notice that it has this box highlighting that. Okay. And so if I move it here and I accidentally, put it, a little bit further down, it's going to start covering things up. Even if I move it, higher over here, kind of looks cluttered because again, it has this box around it. And I don't want to do that. Even if I make it a little bit lower, that way it doesn't cover the data points, but it doesn't necessarily, it's not too close to the title of the chart. It's still, covering certain, lines. And so one way to remove all that, let me drag this out of here again one more time. What I want you to do is click on this. That way it brings up again this format shape. And I'm going to say that I don't want a fill. And well, I'm going to show you first the fill of what that means. Now it makes the text box transparent. Notice that the background isn't white, it's transparent. So if I put it here, it's not blocking anything, but I'm still wanting to remove the outside border. And so, and I just keep dragging it just so, we can see a little bit more clearly. Here under line, we just put no line. And then what it does, it removes it. Oh, so now I can put this directly like right here. So it's centered around the baseline phase. So notice how much nicer that looks as opposed to having a box and then the white, essentially covering things. Now it's transparent, it doesn't have the box around it, and the label's much nicer. I usually what I like to do is I like to copy and paste it. That way I don't have to go through and do the same thing. And I can just put here intervention. Okay, and so now I don't have to go through all of that. I can move this and center this intervention label right here. And now you have the baseline and intervention labels. You have the line that separates the A phase from the B phase. The other thing is that, and I still have a couple of other additional things I like to do before I finalize this. So some people don't like the lines that are, in the background. So what you can do is just click on one of the lines. It highlights everything. And you can just press delete. And it's completely, blank, I guess, in the background. If you like those lines, then you can just leave them in and, again, that whatever your preference is. The other thing here is we need to, some people like to leave the color because it looks nice. However, you can leave it as color, but I like to change it to black lines and then change the data points to look differently. The reason is because most of the time schools don't have a printer or copier, or if they do, they don't like the teachers to use them because colored ink is expensive. Or let's say that you created these graphs, and then you were putting them in some sort of paperwork, and then you wanted to make copies. Well, if you make copies, they're going to come out in black, right, or grayscale, and then you won't know what the replacement behavior is and what the self-injurious behavior is, because they're going to be, if they're all exactly the same data points and they're all exactly the same shade of gray, you can't tell them apart. And so you want to keep that in mind, is that you want to make sure that the message and the meaning, the labels, everything still holds consistent, regardless of whether it's photocopied, if it's printed in grayscale or anything like that, okay? And in order to do that, you can either change these data points. And so again, I highlighted, I just clicked on a data point, it highlights all of the data points for the same line. And notice here, again, we've been using the line options. Now we're going to go to the marker options, okay? For the marker options, now you can say, okay, I want to have a different type of marker option. I need to click that. Right now it was done automatically, but you would have to, in order to change it, you have to click on this where it says built-in. And then now under type, you can change it. Right now, they're all circled. You can change it to a box, to diamond, to triangle, X's, other things. I would say you can either change it to, I don't know, let's just say that we're going to do triangles, okay? Sometimes it's still kind of a little bit hard to see because the line marker is so thick. So what I would do is, go back to the marker options. And notice here underneath where the type was, it's the size. You can increase the size, make them big, you can make them smaller, or you could also change, the line. Okay, so if I go to the line, initially, it was automatically drawn and stuff, but here you can change actually the line to a different width. Like in this case, right now it's at 2.25, but you can decrease it and make it smaller. And actually, as I was messing with that, it ended up adding the connecting line. So you would have to go back and, and unconnect that. So you double click it and then go to no line. That way it separates those again. But notice now that it's a lot more obvious, the different types of data points. The other thing you could do is change the color. So if these data points, going back to the marker, okay, we've already changed all that, but now you want to change the color. So you would go to color. It's pre-selected as blue, but you could change them to to red, to a different color. But again, I don't like to rely on color in case you're trying to photocopy things. But there's that option if you do want to, if you want to know how to change the color. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make everything black. That way it's, we're not relying on color. Again, the line for the line, we would have to change it over here, black. and then it's done it in black. I don't know if you can see it or not, but unfortunately, there's a highlighting of blue still on the data points. And in order to work with that, again, you would have to still, go to marker, and then if there's borders here, you could, you would have to change the border of the actual marker to black. That way, now all of it's black. I don't know if it comes up in the screen or not, but if you don't change that, then it has everything black except it's highlighted outside, like the border of the triangle, it's blue until you change it. Again, because I keep messing with the lines and stuff, I keep having to go back to go over here and undo that. And so same here, click on the other one, it highlights it as soon as you click on any one data point. Going back to the Pell, to the marker, you could, under marker options, again, it's automatic, so you go to built-in, you change it to whatever you want. Since we had done triangles, and we're going to be relying only on, we're not relying on colors, we're relying on markers. You could leave them as circles, because now that the other one is triangles, that would be fine. You can leave it like that, and then just to kind of make it similar to the other one in terms of size, you can increase it to, let's say, 7. But then you would have to go in and change the color to black. The border would need to be black. And then the line, you would have to go to going back to the line, making it black. But as soon as I click on that, I'm going to have to separate it again. But before I separate it, let me make this smaller, like thinner, the line. I can't remember what width I had used for the other one, but I'm going to leave it at 0.75. And then that's black. Okay, fine. And then now I'm going to click on that and then go to no line to separate it again. And see, now you have circles and triangles. And if you want to change this to black as well, you click on the line that you ended up drawing, and you go to, let's say, black. Some people like to do dotted lines or dashed lines, and you can do that too. All you have to do is go over here to the types of lines. Right now, the solid line is highlighted. Sometimes I like to do long dashes. And that way it changes it, instead of it being one solid vertical line, it's dashed. Okay. All right, what else did I want to show you? Okay, so there's a couple of other things. Okay, so notice that all these are filled, but if you wanted to have, I don't know if you've seen some to where the data points are hollow, so they're not solid lines. What you could do is, again, go to the marker, and under fill, you could put no fill, and that's going to make them open. So if you wanted to, you could have open circles to represent the replacement behavior. And then instead of triangles, filled triangles, you could have circles as well, but then these are filled. Okay, and I'll show you for that one what that would look like. Going back to the marker option, the built-in type, you could do the circles. And so the data points or the markers are exactly the same, but one's solid and one's open. And that's another way to distinguish those. So it gives you a lot of variability. Again, it really depends on how you want to do it. And then as you're looking at this, you're like, okay, I mean, now it's a standalone way of representing all of the data. Now, you can't, just leave it here in the Excel spreadsheet. You would want to transfer it over to a Word document. But notice that if I move this, I'm going to move this just over here. Notice that everything that I actually drew doesn't move with it. And I'm going to show you how to make sure that they stay together, okay, before you move it. Otherwise, it's, you're going to be wondering, how can I get all of the data and, everything complete into a Word document? What you have to do is you have to group everything. Okay, so you would have to make sure you click on the chart. And then what you're going to end up doing is you're going to press down the control key. So you hold down the control key. You've already clicked on the graph, and then everything that you drew. So the baseline, the intervention, and the phase change line. It's, I'm still holding on to the control key. Now I let go. Notice that, everything has been highlighted. And now you would go under shape format and you would group this. So if I don't know if people are following along. I'm going a little bit fast in some spots. But if you go over here and click on group, you just click down and do group. And so now it should have grouped everything. So if I move this, notice how it moved everything together, and it's no longer leaving behind anything that you drew. If you want to not have the border around this, again, you click on this and you would put no line, and hold on. Maybe it's chart. Oh, okay. So you can have the no border, and then again the no line to remove it, and it has removed everything. I don't like to make it completely transparent. I just like to remove the outside border, but I can just, oh, what did it do? Oh, it's because I grouped it all together. And so I'm going to have to do this individually for these two and go back and say no fill for that one. No fill for this one. What should be white? I did something wrong. Let me go back, click on border, no line. Okay, there we go. It removed the line. There's a difference between it. If I click on just the outer edge versus clicking on the actual inside of it, it gives me different options. So just keep that in mind when it brings up different options for the border and the fill. So anyway, it has all of this, and now I can, right click, say copy, or just do Control-C. I'm going to bring up a Word document. Okay, hold on. Let me stop sharing for a little bit, because I was only sharing the Excel spreadsheet. That way I can share this. Okay. All right. Now everything I ended up drawing has been transferred over to this one. And here I left the lines, but usually I don't like to leave the lines only because it makes it look a little bit more, cluttered. And I like to make it more, a lot more clear. And so I'm just gonna go back in, click on the lines, delete them. There we go. Delete that one, replace it with this, and see, it looks much nicer. Oh, I did something wrong. What happened to my phase change line? I might have deleted it accidentally. Whenever I was doing undo and undo. It's okay. I'll show you again how to add it. Insert shapes. The line. Again, holding down the shift. I like to typically draw it right here. Okay. I'm having to group it again because. Okay, now I can copy. There we go. So what do you guys think about this one? Now it has everything complete, right? And you guys can go in and play around with I'm going to stop sharing, that way I can see at least all of the list of anyone who's here. But any questions, comments? Do you all think you can replicate this, hopefully? Anyone thumbs up or verbally say something? Okay, yeah, okay. And said yes. Brittany, okay, awesome. All right, well, hopefully you can. And the great thing is that I ended up recording this. And so hopefully, you guys can, pause things and then kind of redo it. Now, again, I'm a PC user. So anyone who's using a Mac, your, all of your formatting things may look slightly different, but the concept is there. Okay. And if at any point when you guys get to the point of having to graph and there's any questions or anything like that, then don't hesitate to reach out, like in class or come to office hours, and I'll certainly help you out. Okay. But let me stop recording real quick.